Namaste, my friends. Today I want to discuss an issue that isn't just disturbing, it's downright infuriating. This issue may seem distant to many of us in India, but it's a global problem that demands attention. I'm talking about the so called Pakistani grooming gangs operating in the United Kingdom. These are organized criminal groups primarily involving individuals from Pakistani origin backgrounds who exploit vulnerable girls, young teenagers for their own selfish and cruel gains. This isn't just about individual crimes, it's a systematic exploitation of human dignity. And today I want to talk about how this happens, why it's been allowed to go on, and what lessons we can learn from it. Let's start with the basics. What is grooming gang? The term refers to groups of criminals who deliberately target vulnerable young girls, typically between the ages of 12 and 16. These victims are often from economically or socially disadvantaged backgrounds. They are manipulated, deceived, and ultimately abused in horrific ways. Here is how it works. These gangs carefully select their targets. They approach the girls pretending to be friend or potential romantic partners. They offer them gifts, show them affection, and make them believe they are loved. Thus, they build trust. Over time, these girls become dependent on these men emotionally and even financially. But this trust is a trap. Once they gain control, the abuse begins. It starts with physical exploitation, but it doesn't stop there. The abuse is psychological and emotional as well, breaking these young girls completely. Many victims are isolated from their families, threatened into silence, and left feeling hopeless. Now, let's address a very uncomfortable truth. Many members of these grooming gang justify their actions using a distorted interpretation of Islamic religious law. They believe their victims, who are usually non Muslims, primarily white British girls, are inferior and can be treated however they please. This isn't about religion as a whole, but about how some radical ideologies have crept into certain communities. These criminals use religion as an excuse to dehumanize their victims. They claim they are following a different moral code, one that allows this kind of behavior. This isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. It's create a mindset where abuse is normalized and even celebrated among some circles. What's even more shocking is how this has been allowed to continue for so long. For years, authorities in the UK have hesitated to act decisively against these gangs because they are afraid of being labeled as racist or Islamophobic. Political correctness has paralyzed many institutions. Police officers, social workers, and even some politicians have turned a blind eye to these crimes. In some cases, they have downplayed the severity of the issue or ignored victims entirely. This has allowed the problem to grow to horrifying levels. But this isn't just about individual failures, it's a systematic issue. It shows us what happens when a society prioritizes appearance over justice. Now you might be thinking, why should we in India care about what's happening in the UK? The answer is very simple. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. As Indians, we understand the dangers of radical ideologies. We have seen how extremist mindset can destroy communities and ruin lives. This issue is a reminder of why it's so important to preserve our own values of equality, respect, and justice. It's also a lesson in vigilance. The moment we stop paying attention, these kind of problems can creep into our own society. We must remain aware and ensure that our systems are strong enough to protect everyone, especially the most vulnerable. So, what can be done? First, these criminals must face justice. There can be no excuses for their actions. Law enforcement agencies and governments must act decisively without fear of political backlash. Second, we need to expose and reject the ideologies that enable this kind of behavior. Education and awareness are key. Communities must speak out against such practices and we must empower victims to come forward without fear. Finally, let's not forget the importance of staying informed. Issues like this show us how important it is to stand against injustice, no matter where it happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you think the global community can tackle this issue? Share your opinions. I would love to hear from you. And as always, remember staying informed is the first step to fighting injustice.